I'm going to read from the Bible. I just happen to have one with me. I try never to go anywhere without it. It comes from the book of Luke, chapter 6. I'm going to start with verse 27. But I say to you that hear. Listen to the first line. But I say to you that hear. H-E-A-R. Love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who abuse you. Well, that's good for today, isn't it? Arg. How many of us thinking arg? Arg. To him who strikes you on the cheek, offer the other also. And from him who takes away your coat, do not withhold even your shirt. Give to everyone who begs from you, and of him who takes away your goods, do not ask them again. And as you wish that men would do to you, do so to them. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners do the same. And if you lend to those from whom you hope to receive, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners to receive as much again. And if you want to transform the word sinner, change it to confused. Even the confused do this. But love your enemies, and do good, and lend, expecting nothing in return. And your reward will be great, and you will be sons of the Most High. For he is kind to the ungrateful and the selfish. Be merciful, even as God is merciful. Judge not, and you will not be judged. Condemn not, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put into your lap. For the measure you give will be the measure you get back. And what we're talking about here is not the amount, but the spirit of which you give, or in which you give, of anything that you give, be it emotional, be it physical. He also told them a parable. Can a blind man lead a blind man? Will they not both fall into a pit? A disciple is not above his teacher, but everyone, when he is fully taught, will be like his teacher. Why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own? Or how can you say to your brother, Brother, let me take out the speck that is in your eye, when you yourself do not see the log that is in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take out the speck that is in your brother's eye. For no good tree bears bad fruit, nor again does a bad tree bear good fruit. For each tree is known by its own fruit. Figs are not gathered from thorns, nor are grapes picked from a bramble bush. The good out of the good treasure of his heart produces good, and the evil out of his evil treasure produces evil. For out of the abundance of the heart, his mouth speaks. So, today's talk is called, What's It To Me? The old saying is, what's it to ya? But in this, it's what's it to me? Reverend Carlos did a talk on this same parable. Sometimes the log in the eye is, or thorn in the eye is considered a parable. In some places it isn't. But for today, we're going to say it's a parable. And Carlos did this in the city a few weeks ago, and I saw the video. He called it Mind Your Own Business. And I call that What's It To Me? It's not the same talk, but it's the same topic. And I was so inspired by what he had to say, and I thought about it. I thought, really, what is it that you think that I think is any of my business? You know, what is it for any way you might look at me that I think is my business? And it's tricky, this. Especially with what's going on in the world. It's like, where do I take action? But how do I take it with the right judgment instead of the wrong judgment? See, if I come into it thinking, you are evil, they are bad, they're this, I'm going into it with the wrong judgment. We're looking to bring peace, not punish. That's what we want in our heart. We want peace, not punishment. There is no justice, per se, except that we are all beloved children of God. Now, I have been experiencing some terrific pain in the past week. Physical pain set in my whole right jaw. And it turns out, we believe, shingles in my mouth. There's no rash, but the nerve endings are alive and alert and awake and enthusiastic to remind me of things like ouch. It reminds me of when to say ouch, or scream, or cry. Tuesday night I had a good cry. I went to David crying. I was so, it's like, how can I take my head off? It hurts so much. And I went to the doctor and I got medication. And I don't do that very often, but this week I knew I have to do something, and I've been going to the chiropractor to deal with the two. And I thought, what is this about? What's going on here? And we've been working so diligently on a few topics in our 4 Spiritual Laws of Prosperity class. We're working on tithing a lot and goal setting, but the one that really comes into my mind is forgiveness. And to me, this is about unforgiveness. And as I was driving home Thursday afternoon, and I was hurting, but I've been praying this week. And I haven't prayed for healing. I've been praying for connection. But all of a sudden I heard the voice that said, Shawn, who do you think you are that you can hold unforgiveness towards anyone? What makes you think you have the right to hold unforgiveness anywhere? And I knew it was right. The question was right. The voice that asked it in me. I have been thinking that I can be justified in my judgments. Well, I can't. Not and be free. I cannot hold resentment towards anyone and think that it doesn't touch me. That I'm not going to experience it somewhere in my life. Who here has seen David's definition or example of resentment? Remember it? Yeah. Here, hit me.
Oh, yeah.
Ow. So she hit me. Here's resentment. How many times did Jen hit me?
One.
How many times am I hitting? Over and over and over again. That's resentment. I'm resending the message over and over again, but only to my own interpretation. I didn't ask Jen what she was thinking when she hit me. So Thursdays I'm driving home thinking, okay, if I can't hold on to unforgiveness because it's just not paying off the way I'd hoped. I thought of a neighbor that I have perceptions about. And what occurred to me to do was place the neighbor's body here and what I think he did over here. I no longer hated him. It was only in hate over here. I had no hate for this man because he's just a person. He's just a being. And it was very clear to me that I could see him just as a being. That there was love there, that there was all sorts of things going on there that were lovely and light-filled and wonderful that I have totally ignored for about 10 years now because I've been fixated on this side and I combined the two. And so that's, to me, how I could begin a healing process, a forgiveness process with this being so that I could just start looking at the behaviors. And I started doing that with a few other people, and I need to do more journaling on it and things. And I've started healing. I don't want to scream like that. I've been able to eat full meals the past couple of times. I did drop 6 pounds. There's lots of virtues that come with these things. Because I can only chew on this side of the mouth and very soft things. And nothing with temperature. Monday afternoon, I wasn't thinking after I came to the chiropractor and I went to lunch and I bit into a hot meatball on the right side. I thought, I saw stars. As I said, I saw Barbara Streisand at one point. It was insane how much it hurt. And I had a piece of toast with some almond butter on this side and a couple of crumbs got over here. But past couple of days I've been able to brush this side of my teeth again with a toothbrush, and it's not sending off nerve waves. I still have a dull pain, but nothing amazing. And last night I got up and performed. I'm doing what I need to do because I have a show in 2 weeks in Palm Springs, and I want to do my show, and I want to do it in joy. I want to do it in love, and I thought, I don't want to cancel this thing. And so last night I took a risk. I said, Kenneth, can I get up and do a short set of comedy so I could, because I realized I'm out of practice, and can I do it even if my mouth hurts? Can I still be funny? And people were appreciative and nice, and so I assume I did okay. Brian laughed a lot, so I was relieved. It's a lot of stuff he's heard several times.
I'm laughing at anything.
So funny.
Yes, whatever, I'll take. Those are the kind of audiences I want.
It's a poor memory.
That's whatever. I don't care. You laugh, that's all that counts. But let's look at who we're still holding outside of our hearts. Because we think we're not safe to let them in. We think it's too dangerous to bring them back in. But if you separate the behavior or the deed from the body, that's how God sees this being, and that's how God sees me, separate from my behaviors. God doesn't see my judgments. God doesn't see any of that. God doesn't see my plight. God doesn't see my jaw. God doesn't see any of that. I'm a being of light. I'm quite certain of this, whatever God is. And I don't teach any of this to make us stronger in religion. Everything I just read out of this Bible was not to make us better at our religion. It was to make us freer beings, to love life while we're in this body. That's the purpose of Jesus' teachings. And to let all beings into the kingdom. And to teach all beings how to let all beings into the kingdom. So, when they say pick up that mountain and throw it into the ocean. Well, what if the mountain is this guy's behavior? And I pick it up and throw it into the ocean. Or so that it becomes no thing. Instead of an assault on my dignity. An assault on my pride. Instead of that. And then I don't have to go to him to try to get him to have been different. I'm not going to call the guy to go to lunch. And I have thought about, believe me, I thought, should I knock on his door and just say hello? And I'm not ready to do that either. We weren't friends before. And so I thought, but where can I look? Who can I go knock on the door? Which beings have I left out of my heart that I would knock on the door, that I would somehow find peace with, that I would be okay if I heard they had great success, that it wouldn't threaten me if I had heard that they had friends. These people that have so offended me. That's the only thing I say. How is it that people I don't like have friends? It's confusing. And so to separate what I don't like, which is behaviors, which is confused thinking, which is whatever. I don't know their motives, and yet I have said I do, or behaved as if I did. I don't know my own half the time. How often, if we're trying to hurt somebody, or we're snapping at somebody, we're doing our selfish thing, we're laying on the horn, we're competing on the highway. How often are we aware of our motives? Are we taking time to think, wait a minute, what am I trying to get here? I hit the gas, get on the highway to get past this one because he's not going to outspeed me. That's like, what am I thinking about? My motive, which is to be separate. That's my motive right now. In truth, I'm trying to claim I am separate from this being. And in that trying to claim I am separate from this being, I'm trying to claim I'm separate from God. And I thought, if I knew that, I would never do that. If I were conscious of that, I would never, ever do that. Because none of us wants to think that we are separate from God. And so I have to go back. I've been playing Edwin Gaines' CDs over and over again in my car, her book on CD. I play it all the time. And so I keep getting more lessons, and it deepens on forgiveness, on goal setting, on purpose. And then Monday nights we talk about it here, and on Tuesday nights I talk about it with a group in the city. And if you even if you're not taking the class, please get her book over there and read it repeatedly. It is one of the best books you will ever read to cover 4 basic spiritual principles of your life to practice in order to know what to think when life comes up. I don't promise you that it will take away all of your problems. What I promise you is in the study of that, with an open mind and an active prayer life, is that you will know what to do. You'll know what to think. You'll know what to say as life keeps coming up. I don't know that we're ever fully healed. I just don't know that we are. What I do know is we are continuously in progress. But that's not an excuse to delay the process. That's no excuse to delay our progress. Well, since I'm in progress, I'll wait a little bit and I'll continue to resent and judge and I'll be cheap and I'll be afraid and I'll just live in all that. No, when we make a foray, as it were, into healing and it doesn't go quite the way I thought it would, then I step back for a second and say, okay, I know this thought was right and I know this thought was right. Where did it go awry? Because I didn't get peace. I did not get peace from this attempt. And so what do I need to rethink about this? Now, years ago, you've heard the story, many of you, I'll tell it again. I wanted to become a minister. I was already an interfaith minister. And so I was involved with the church in the city, very involved, and I went to the minister there because I was teaching a class on how to get what you want or something like that. It's been a lot of years since I taught that class. But there were basic tenets in that. And the first one was, you get an idea. Great. Then you make a plan. And then you take an action. And then you have a manifestation. Boom, 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 boom. The 4 steps to manifestation. That's what I had thought of at first. And so I had an idea. I want to be a minister, like in a church. Terrific. So what's the plan? I will ask this minister to make me a minister in this church. With him, not alongside per se, not to be equal, but nevertheless. And so the action was to go and ask him. And then he'll say yes, and there we go. So, idea, be a minister. Plan, ask him. Action, ask him. I had not thought of obstacle. I didn't know there was a 5th part to that where he would say no. I don't want you to be a minister here, Shawn. I'm fine with you teaching classes. I don't want you as a minister. And I was a little affronted. Here I am teaching my prosperity. I'm teaching, and he says no. I had a great plan, except I didn't. I had a great idea. My plan was insufficient. See, I wanted the idea of being a minister, and that's all it would have been if he had said yes. I would have been one in name only. I wouldn't have made any extra money. It would have been an egoic thing. It really would not have been a way to serve. It'd just be a way for me, oh, look, I'm a minister in New York. It couldn't have worked, and I was resentful for quite some time. About yesterday, but which is crazy. I mean, I've known the truth for a very long time. So I went back to my chart. Good idea, be a minister. I knew that was the right thing for me. The plan was too small. That's what I saw very clearly. The plan was too small. And I heard the voice that said, Shawn, you have to pastor a church. You need that experience. And so fine, I'll listen to the voice. I said, but I'm not leaving David, so it has to be close enough to commute to New York City. That was my only condition. I wasn't worried about salary. I wasn't worried about any of that. Just, it has to be close enough to New York. Within a month, this church calls the Church of the City. We're looking for a licensed Unity teacher to be our minister. And Andre and I met for lunch, and I knew that day. It took the rest of the community a few months to know, to feel that they were choosing me instead of that they were being chosen. And so they had to go through a process, but Andre and I knew at that lunch this was my job. And so I kept saying yes, 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 and I'll do whatever they need. In the process of forgiveness, and a lot of what forgiveness is about is giving way for a new thought about this, and about this, and about this. Whenever it seems to not be going my way or as fast as I want it to go, or there's any kind of pushback. I had 3 tryouts here. My second tryout, David and I walk in, and the woman comes out of the bookstore, and I said, "Hi, I'm Shawn. I'm here doing my tryout talk today." She said, "Good, be nice to me because I'm on the search committee." And it's like, "Oh, hello." She doesn't come here anymore. But it was like, oh my goodness. Well, that's not very, everybody else has been just lovely. And it didn't matter though. That I could just laugh at. I still laugh at it. But I was a little shocked to my system. And I could have run and hid. And my third tryout, they wanted me to have somebody else do music rather than David, because they knew David wasn't going to be the music director. And they brought someone in who kept refusing to, I assume refusing, she wouldn't return my phone calls to talk about music. And I finally reached her at dinner time on the Wednesday before the Sunday, and I said, "I'd like to know some of the songs you do so we can decide to go with my talk." She said, "Well, I usually just play what I feel like." I thought, oh, well, guess this will be your last Sunday at Unity. And it was. And she showed up at 10:30. They were just asking David if he would go ahead and do the music that day when she walked in the door. Everything was nice. Everything was pleasant. She did her thing. I just separated my thing from hers. And we went on because it didn't matter. It was already my job. So I didn't need to make my job harder by being angry at this person. But I felt whatever assault I felt, but I didn't take it so personally. She didn't know me. And so to begin to look at that and think, oh, there's this God being here who has behaved like this. Has any of us done that? Have any of us, as a God being here, behaved like this? Have we forgiven ourselves yet for it? Have we taken the log out of our own eye, or are we busy with an agenda to take that speck out of your eye, and that speck out of your eye? Oh, your speck offends me. Ignore my mote in my eye. Ignore this, the giant tree in my eye. Let me take that speck out of yours. Because, I'm offended by it. And it's funny when you look at it that way, isn't it? Because you see, ultimately, it doesn't really matter so much what you're doing, what they are doing, if you can see clearly. And what's going on in our world now is we are trying to see clearly. I was seeing some things on the internet, and people are angry about the shootings and things, and what's being done or not being done about it. But you see, just yelling at your congressman isn't enough. Yelling at people who don't, and then I'm going to go over and sit here. I did comment on someone's page today because they were talking about prayers, and that the answer seems to be that it all needs our prayers. I agree, but then it needs our action. Life requires our action. Yes, pray, and then move your feet. If you want to prosper, if you want to live in peace, if you want to, just sitting down and praying, that's nice. Oh, it's lovely. And it can make you feel more religious, and it can make you feel more loved by God, but it doesn't move mountains. Pray and move your feet. And we're spiritual scientists, and sometimes we reach out, we try to do peace, and then it comes slamming back at us, and it's like, wait a minute, I was doing what I was taught to do. And I got slammed. Well, yes. Remember, there is a thing that says, do not cast your pearl. It's called a teaching, not a thing. That says, do not cast your pearls before swine, because a pig doesn't know what to do with pearls. And I don't mean to call anybody's family member a pig, but you get the point. Do not take your spirituality where there's no interest. Do not take your religion where it isn't. Take your desire for peace. And when you go into a situation, you ask, how can peace prevail here? God, I'm open to guidance. And I'm willing to say and think and do what ought to be done by me in the interest of peace. In the next couple of weeks, we're going to be working on finding your divine purpose in our Monday night class. It's the fourth law. And I like what Edwin says in it. In finding your purpose, ask yourself, what ought to be done by me in the world that I could commit to 100% and there is no out clause? Edwin's is that she is 100% responsible for transforming the prosperity consciousness of planet Earth. And she had no out clause. If you've read her book, she took jobs that paid next to nothing because that was the guidance she got. And it all benefited and it all worked so beautifully. And so, for me, what is my purpose? And I have not been living up to it sufficiently. I'm quite clear of that. I have no cause for guilt over that. But in my unforgiveness, in so many categories, I have forgotten that my purpose is to be 100% responsible for reminding planet Earth that each being is good and cannot not be good. That's mine. That is my ministry, and I knew it years ago. And over the years, I have forgotten by taking things personally, by forgetting, and by justifying the forgetting. I'm not guilty. I want to be very clear on that. I'm in pain, but I'm not guilty. God does not need me to be guilty, and guilt is not redemption. Prayer and action is redemption. I told a friend of mine who relapsed in his 12-step recovery a couple of weeks ago, I said, let me tell you, your guilt is not redemption. Sobriety is redemption. So for us, love is redemption. Peace and joy is redemption. Our guilt and our shame is not redemption. We don't have a God in this building that needs us to be guilty, that needs us to be ashamed. We have a God that is fully willing for us to be happy, joyous, and free. And so, I plan to worry less about the speck in your eye and get my log down to at least just a speck. Thank you.